that is Uganda. It's a pleasure for me to sit here and moderate this program and host this program. It's a pleasure for me always, to stand before you and present this program that speaks about our nation, Uganda. For all of you who follow our program on social media, we as well welcome you today and thank you for choosing Dream TV. If you're following us on Facebook, that is Dream TV Uganda, and also on Twitter at Dream TV Uganda and Instagram at Dream TV Uganda. We as well have people who follow us on our YouTube channel, that is Dream TV Uganda or The Uganda We Want. As I always notify you, in case you've missed some of our previous episodes with people that we host here, you can go on our YouTube account and just look out for The Uganda We Want. The way I'm saying the word, just look out for The Uganda We Want. You will be able to find the previous episodes, and you'll be able to listen and hear more from people what they envision for this country. Because in this program, we bring people, we host people who air out their views on the kind of Uganda they want to see. And many of them have been providing solutions to problems that they think if they are dealt with so fast, so easily, or so toughly, if it's there, well, we can, all of us, achieve the kind of Uganda that everyone will enjoy. Today, we are privileged in our program to host Captain Timothy Tumusiime'S. And I just know briefly about him, and I will introduce him. He will as well talk more about himself. But what I know, let me tell you what I know about Captain Timothy Tumusiime'S. He served as a political commissar for over 30 years, and that speaks a lot to you. And when he starts to speak to you, I believe with experience and everything, you will be able to learn something from him, and you will be able to know more of the kind of Uganda that he envisions. He is as well a retired Uganda People's Defense Force military officer. That means he served in the army of this country. So he's the man that we have today who is going to share with us the kind of Uganda that he envisions. Captain, it is a pleasure as Dream TV and as me, Molans Robert, to have you this evening to speak to us on the kind of Uganda that we envision. Could you please greet our viewers?
It's a pleasure to be with you, Comrade and Ndugu Muranzi. Viewers outside there and diaspora, I'm happy to be in front of you and share with you a number of issues that I think would constitute to the Uganda we need to have today and onwards. So, thank you very much.
You're welcome. And I think you normally say Asante Sana.
That's right.
Well, at least I know that. Well, I introduced you briefly, and someone who is viewing us would like to know more about you, and that's why I'm posing a question that goes, who is Captain Timothy Tumusiime'S? I believe you were not born a captain, but let us know about you. Where did you go for school? Are you married? Who are you? Basically, someone would like to know you more.
Now it's a pleasure to address the viewers. My name is Captain Timothy Tumusiime'S. I attended my primary living at a rural school in Kitagwenda. That's Ugaram Primary School. From there, I went to one one of the prestigious colleges, St. Leo's College, Chegobe, in Fort Portal, where I was until I joined NRA in 1985. I joined St. Leo's College in 1981. In 1985, I joined NRA in Fort Portal.
So was that at A level, O level?
At O level.
At O level.
At A level.
At A level.
At A level, yes.
Okay.
I had not completed A level. I later had to upper grade and did my diploma in environmental science. I have a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Science and a Bachelor of Laws of Uganda Pentecostal Church University.
So you joined the army before you didn't complete senior
Yes,
six,
the army considered our plight. You heard of the Kadogos. I was with some of those Kadogos, the late Kajabago, Bizimana, John, and others. So we continued, even the late Brigadier Mayombo also continued from the bush. Because I joined together with Brigadier Mayombo, now Lieutenant General Mujira, James, and Musanyufu. Those were my intake.
Yeah, I feel like I want to interject your bio briefly.
Yes.
At all level, what really forced you to join the army?
Well,
and was it a force or a motivation?
It was a force. It was a force.
You were forced.
It was a force. It was a force. The bullies controlled the flames. I don't know whether you understand that. Then the bullies controlled the flames. And in doing so, I was offended by the bullies. And I found myself where I thought I would not be. But it was that. That's how I joined. Do you want me to maybe possibly somehow explain what I mean by the bullies?
Go ahead.
Then the Uganda National Liberation Army of Obote, because it started with Yusuf Rule, then Benaisa, then Mwanga, then to Obote. There is a way they mistreated us. There is a way they mistreated my people. There is a way they forced me to find myself where I never expected to be. Because I was in high school, I expected to maybe to be a doctor. Because I was in one of the prestigious schools then, St. Leo's College. But I abandoned and joined the army so that I also be part and parcel of those who would change the equation, where the bullies would control the flames. This I mean to say. I would give you an example. In 1985, 86, here at 1982, 83 here at Rubiri, the citizens complained about raping their wives. These people were the soldiers raping wives of the citizens indiscriminately. And then Army Commander Basilio Okero addressed the gathering here, near neighbor here. And they explained to him their problems. And you know what he answered? He told them that, is that a problem? You people, if you have 2 wives, give my soldiers 1.
So you remain with
in
1.
English, in Swahili, he said, that chacha nyinyi mnachema nini? Kama na wabibi 3 pati yanga chikali yangu moja. So those was the bullying of the highest order that forced some of us to find ourselves in the bush. We could not relate that in discipline of the forces of that. There are other factors, but majorly that was the basic.
Yeah, you've tried to bring it down to a common person to really understand the kind of mistreatment that you went through. We've had people at your age who have been referring to the old regimes as, was full of mistreatment and so on. Away from raping and the bully that you're talking about, are there other visible acts that were done? And if you say them, probably a young man, a young woman who is watching is able to really understand what happened in the past.
These very guys moved away from hot barracks.
Mm-hmm.
They walked up to a place called Katoke in Fort Potro. And I was staying with my brother, who had a very big radio cassette. And they told my brother, Chacha huu unachema nini? Beba hii cassette sasa hii uchukue kwa barracks. What I mean to say, they told him to carry the radio cassette, which was very good to us, giving us good music. And he carried it up to the barracks, Muhoti. This is where the soldiers of Obote. Then he was told that you are lucky, we are not going to kill you, go back. And when he came back, we celebrated. Because we thought
he was going to be killed.
Yes, they had just killed Charlie Yetaho. Charlie Yetaho was a prominent businessman in Fort Potro. He had a simple quarrel with soldiers in Franco Bar. And he had some undergraduates who were there. They were just having a party. They were about to come to Makerere and graduate. So only on simple clashes with the soldiers, they came and rounded everybody and went and slaughtered every person who was in the bar. I'm telling you, it was darkness at noon. Everybody will never forget that incident in Fort. Actually, they attributed, because there was a gentleman called, I will remember him. That gentleman was UPC staunch. He is the one who was, but that was in the days of a man called Opeto, who was nicknamed Pilato. Balinda Chisaya of Fort Potro. He was among those guys who rounded up every person, including several students who were about to graduate. And they killed everybody. And it was darkness at noon in the whole of Fort Potro. So those are issues. Those are a few issues that contributed to our. So any issue, any act that is done against the minds of the people will drive them to a designed area where they wouldn't have gone.
So when you sit back and you reflect on the issues, on the factors that forced you to join the army, are you satisfied that you really achieved?
Well, I think from the base of my knowledge, of course, there might be some omissions and errors committed by some few individuals, errors. And I from the Bible perspective, which I subscribe to, and I'm sorry that actually from the beginning, I never invited my Lord and Savior, whom I accepted, Jesus, to be with us. Because I think, for me, I believe that we cannot succeed, we cannot do anything successfully without having him around us. That is Jesus.
You got to know that when you're in the army, right?
No, Jesus, I got to know him earlier than that.
Oh, okay.
You see, the president of the Republic of Uganda says religion is personal. But I had also personal experience with Jesus. And I know that he has power that nobody has. And he can do anything. He can do anything that no man can do. So, I respect, I know, I love him, not respecting. I love him. There's nothing I can do, because basically a man is born a sinner. But once you know that Jesus is there for you, then you always go to him and ask him to guide you in everything you are doing. So what we are doing here, if he was not, I'm sure that Dr. Sergoda has prayed for this this place here where we are. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having success that we should have had. But I'm also praying now that Jesus comes and takes over control and moves successfully.
Okay.
To the
So back there, so you're saying that there could be, when you look at the army you joined then, and the army you served with, and the army that is serving the nation today, you're like, there could be some human errors. First, where do we attribute those human errors? And why are we having those human errors when it comes to the way the army deals or carries out its responsibilities?
My brother, a man is not a sheep or a cow that will continue saying more all the time. I would draw you back to the time of Mutesa I, when he was inviting the whites and the missionaries to come over here and bring peace and liberty, fraternity, here. Little did he know that he was bringing problems for his son, Mwanga. It is Mutesa who brought the British. The British smoked Mwanga out of Brang, this Rubiri. And he joined his enemy, his hereditary enemy, Kabalega. And they were both exiled because they were trying to resist the symptoms of colonialism. And literally some of these Ugandans who supported the colonialists knew that these guys had not come to bless this area, but just had come only to get raw materials for their industries. And so, you are trying to tell me that, there are things, the society is dynamic. It changes. But, you understand? The society changes. And changes change people. And you see, taking you back to biblical time, when people who had seen miracles, when people were crossing the Red Sea, God said, let there be a way. People crossed the Red Sea. And they saw people crossing the Red Sea. The Bible tells us that they all died. So after their death, there came people who had not seen the crossing of Red Sea, the crossing of Jordan. So their miracles,
they couldn't know what
they couldn't know exactly. They couldn't know exactly what transpired then. When I talk about the Buddhists, they had not. There are some boys who didn't see the Buddhists. Those who could control the flames. Anytime if you say no, they kill you. If you are with your wife and you resist a bit, in the days of Idi Amin, they would go to Catholic churches and collect nurses and want to sleep with them. But what I'm saying here is people who don't know what people went through. Some, the other day I heard His Excellency had I don't know whether you read it in red paper, in Ogwino, on Ogwino, that General Kale has been called to teach people, can we call it patriotism in the army, and love for their country. That's why now what we are doing here. So you see why he's bringing Kale Kaihura. Kale Kaihura is a cadre. I have worked with him.
Despite the mess in the police.
No. What I'm telling you, what I'm trying to tell you is that you may think the mess was there. But what you should know is that there was politics. So you may find that the messes were not his, but because there was politics, so you people believe that politics is a dirty game. There is a dirty people might have, but you see, I was there when the president was giving a speech at the burial of Brigadier Mayombo. He had stayed with Kale and Mayombo and Mujira for quite some time. All these generals were there, including Leta Ronda. But he said in his words that I had 3 people who had a heart like mine, who would think like me, who would reason like me. And he said one was Mayombo, another one is Mujira, and the third one is Kale Kaihura. We were all there. He never mentioned my name. And you have ever been with the president, one-on-one. But he never mentioned him. But what I'm trying to tell you is that there is also a rule, what they call the rule on the probate. The probate. You cannot reprobate. When you probate, you cannot reprobate. He said that I have only 3 people who are like me. That's Mayombo, Mujira, and Kale Kaihura. But I think maybe bad blood started from there. Because I can still remember in the Bible, when Isaac, is it Isaac, who said that you, Joseph, do you mean with these dreams of yours, do you intend to rule us? The father. He was telling the son that with these dreams of yours, and before his brothers. So his brothers picked and started working against.
Yeah. So the point here you're trying to drive at is when King Mutesa invited the British.
Yes.
He was looking for peace.
Yes. You see, they had given a report to Mutesa that these witch doctors, the wizards in Kampala, were actually cheating and exploiting and stealing from people. There is no good information they have for these people. So he had talked to the whites, and the whites had told him about Christianity, the good of Christianity.
Yes.
So one day he said, I must prove whether it is true that the witch doctors really deceive my people.
Yeah.
Do you know what he did? Do you know what they call empafu?
Empafu.
He put empafu in his mouth. And he pretended that he had developed sickness. And he wanted every witch doctor to come and prescribe his sickness. Everybody who came, none of them would tell him that there was empafu. Instead, they would say, we want sheep, we want cows, we want what? And the last person who entered, he invited all the witch doctors, all the astrologers, all the wizards. So later on, when he found the last person also did not deviate from the first ones, when he laughed and the empafu fell down.
Yeah. So before we look at whether Uganda is at peace or not, I just want to know. So the whites have come in for the purpose of from King Mutesa's perspective that he wanted peace. So what happened that the peace started? That the country started becoming peaceless. What happened?
What happened was the British, the missionaries, after they arrived here, they told their friends outside there to form a company. The company's name was the British Imperial East African Company. And the reason was to come and organize people in the region. You know, when the British came here, they found Uganda, Buganda per se, were organized. And it looked like London. It so looked like
they came to Buganda first.
Buganda first.
Without Uganda.
And, yes, Buganda first. There was no Buganda. There was no Uganda, but there was Buganda. And Buganda was very well organized. It was as organized. The decentralized system was even better than the one they had in Europe. They said we cannot really colonize the people who are better than us. They said we shall only protect. That's why they said Uganda was what? A protectorate. But Kenya, where people are
you saying that Buganda was more colonized or was more organized than Britain?
Precisely. They admired, they so admired Buganda. And on admiring Buganda, they said, we shall not colonize Buganda, but we shall only just give them protection because there is nothing we can add to them. There is no value we can add to Buganda.
That's why it became a British protectorate.
Yes, precisely, yes.
So, so because I'm looking at when you look through the events, then you came in, you know, Obote, Amini, Obote, Binaisa, Lule, then the Okeros, and then you with the NRA, National Liberation Army. So one of the points I think that, you know, the NRA talks about is to restore peace in the country. I think it's one of the points that is, you know, they talk about in their 10 points, which later became 15 points program. So I'm like, when you look at the army then and the army now, do you think there is something that has to change or everything is okay? Nothing has to change in the army. If it is there, what has to change and how can it change?
The reason why we are here, we are here to make sure that if there is anything that has gone wrong, changes.
Good.
You get the point? I want to still maybe make a flashback, push you back. You normally tell us
with the hope of bringing you back.
The press tell us that, you know what you tell us? You tell us that, you see, the opposition is, when we talk in Uganda, they say, Oruwabrachi government.
Government.
They said that advises the government to walk the right walk. Otherwise, the government without the other side would not be able to walk.
The right
I can
way.
still remember in 1996, we had elections, and the one who was on the other side, that was late Semogerere Kawanga.
Dr. Kawanga.
Dr. Kawanga Semogerere. He talked about introducing the free education program. But he was talking about introducing it. He was not in control. And the one who was in control introduced it.
Even though it was his idea, but he wasn't in control.
So he brought it. And no, he was on the other side. He had the majority on the other side. So similarly, during Bessege's time, she talked on abolishing the head gratuity tax, which I think would treat people like as if they are slaves. They would put you on a rope, about 1,000 on a rope,
parish,
and
or to the sub-county,
prison, and you serve for some time. But you see, since he had seen it, the one who was in control and who had the powers to, he said, no, do I need to wait now? He said, no, let it be.
Yeah,
and
well said. Now take me back, since we are here, to see that what has gone wrong is made right again. So in the army specifically, you've served in the army, you're now retired, but when you're at home, is the army we have the army you want to see in the Uganda we want? Or what do you see that, yes, this has to change, and how can it change?
This has to be a message to authorities, those in leadership position in the army, and His Excellency, that he has to labor. You see, when we were fighting war, we believed that it was incumbent upon us to make sure that we are following a correct political line and a right course of history. I know what they were getting.
Explain more on that.
You say and they say that history repeats itself. So we had it in our programs in the bush to make sure that we follow a correct political line and a right course of history.
Let's begin with the correct political line. What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
What I mean by that is to borrow a leaf from other areas where things have not worked well. Because even when I go to Bible, in Ecclesiasticus they say, nothing God does that is new. He calls the past to account for the present. That's scripture. He calls the past to account for the present. So what I mean to say here is we must have scholars. We have some good professors in the army, like Brigadier Sebo. He's a professor in history. I have some guys who are historians. The moment you deviate from the right course of history, including the other one I've talked about, the correct political line, but that one is actually put right by the political line is put right by the right course of history.
So how has today's army deviated from the correct, let's say, political line and course of history?
It has not deviated.
But
there are some issues which I think the government would look at and correct.
I want to understand, what are some of those issues?
Of course, these are small issues.
They are small, but
small issues. You see, the point is, when they are very small, and an army is a sensitive organization that we don't have to be talking about, because it's a very, very sensitive. So these sensitive, they know. This, when I talk about critically, actually, critically, to examine critically, if, because you see, it is very important to listen to you people, the media. When I say about few things, I also read the media. I also look at what you say in the media. And you see, there are some few things that I think my brothers and my sisters, you see, for me, regardless, I'm not far from them. I'm with them.
Yeah,
I'm with them.
Once a commando.
Once a commander, every commander. So I'm with them. But when I say that,
commando.
That's why I said that when our beloved President Yoweri Museveni, I love him, because he's the only president I've ever been with together. We sit together and talk. These other presidents, I never know them. I've never seen them. I never knew them. So, but for him, we have ever talked, me and him.
So could these few things, well, for my interest, I want to understand, could these few things in the army could be, when we see them, they are everywhere? Wouldn't that be an issue? Like they are in every sector.
They are not going to be an issue, my brother. Because you see,
that's
why the president assigned. You saw the Onogwino. He signed his royal cadre. That's why I said, I'm telling you, there is no person whom you can equate with Kaihura in terms of leadership. Kaihura. But what I told you is the politics. The politics can come in, but when the politics have gone, you should remember that we are brothers in everything. I was reading a book called The Things Fall Apart. The man said that please, if there are chicken loitering into the bushes and you see a fox coming, you don't have to rush to advise chicken. You go first chase the fox away. And then you come to advise the chicken from not wandering into the bushes.
In the bush. Yeah. So you've talked about the politics, actually 4 times, if I remember, ever since we started this program. I want to understand, what do we mean? How do we see the politics, for example, in matters of security, in matters of maintaining and keeping our country peaceful? Like for the case study, it's in public domain. General Kale Kaihura was serving as the IGP for in the police in this country. But you say that yes, there was some mess in his leadership, but you're contributing that to the politics. What is that politics? How do we see that politics, and how can we go about that?
As long as you happen to be climbing a tree, and there are people who don't want to reach the canopy of that tree.
That's the politics.
That's the politics. The politics of people who don't want you to reach where they don't want you to reach. They create A and B and C. First of all, there are people we call internal intrigues. The intrigue can be from outside or from inside, and you may not know, because if you can look at the reasons why a person who was known as the savior of Ghana, that is Kwame Nkrumah, was overthrown, was politics. People knew that he was a savior in Ghana, but others never wanted to reach the top where he wanted to reach. Similarly to this one of Burkina Faso, Captain Sankara. Captain Sankara was a person who was the nationalism in him was actually right in his blood. He wanted everything to be for the those people from Burkina Faso. He loved them so much, and he loved his country so much, and he wanted his country to advance. He wanted to go up the. So similarly, when you are climbing a tree, there are people who are the opposing factors that don't want you to climb that tree. So those forces in together, they may do it, one, either to weaken the leadership, or to weaken your boss, or to weaken you. So I don't want to go into details.
Oh, they are targeting 3 people.
3 people. So when they achieve this, they have achieved the rest. When they throw you and they know you are a strong pillar, then they are moving. It's a movement.
So let's look at that movement, Captain, as we're about to sign out. And let's look at that movement. Okay, they have their movement that is looking at pulling down people, which you've referred to as the politics that normally comes in when people are serving, when there are those who are trying, quote unquote, who are seen as serving others. Just in case you find yourself in a position of authority, what would you do to such people? I believe, because if you do that, what you're going to tell us, probably we will land into the kind of Uganda that we want.
See, there are mysteries people don't understand. The first thing I can do, as you have asked, is what people may not believe that works. And for me, I believe it works. Is to inform Jesus. Because when I was coming here, I told Jesus Jesus is my friend.
Okay.
So I tell him
You inform Jesus
that I'm going to do ABCD. And I have the knowledge to do it. You see, people, the reason why I was trying to tell you that following a correct political line is always very important. And the right course of history. Because many politicians have lost the grip of power, including late Gaddafi, including late of Saddam Hussein. And if you looked at the King Farouk of Egypt, King Farouk of Egypt was so powerful that he had made sure that even he would look into the judgment if there is a court proceeding somewhere. King Farouk would call that King Farouk is the one who was overthrown by the team of the military team that overthrew the feudal system in the monarchy in Egypt. In Egypt. And King Farouk was a person who was overthrown, but for him, he had absolute powers. He had reached an extent of even calling for the judge to come and make a judgment in his presence. If he wanted to convict you, it does not matter whether you are a criminal or not, but if he doesn't want you, he suspended all the judges who had independent minds and remained with his own judges. Similarly to what Nkrumah did, what he was going away. In 1965, he appointed the parliament. He didn't want elections. He said he would appoint you and say, for you represent Butambara. For you represent Chitagwenda. And he appointed his own parliament. He appointed judges to make sure that they implement his programs, socialist programs. And did he last? Took him 1 year. So what I'm trying to say, it's important to revisit most of these areas and see how you can look at history so that history doesn't judge you. Because when history judges you, that's very bad.
So you're speaking to a leader, any leader who has an office and has the authority to do something, has got to follow the right course
of history. To avoid embarrassment.
If he doesn't,
and historical judgment.
Are you saying that to every leader in this country?
No, that's not me saying.
Captain, who is saying?
It's not me saying.
So do we have some leaders in this country who should
no, I'm not saying it, but
okay,
it's
who should follow the theory?
I'm not saying these are theories. What I'm trying to talk about are theories.
Okay.
And some of these theories, by the way, constitute what took us in the bush.
Okay. I think we will nail more on that when we return with episode 2 with Captain Timothy Tumusiime'S, whom you've heard. And I want to leave you with that. You've heard it from him. You as a Ugandan citizen, what are you going to do to ensure that we achieve the kind of Uganda that is peaceful, the kind of Uganda that you and I will live in peacefully? My name is Mulanzi Robert. This is the Uganda we want.